They called it a dream home, a place to start fresh, to build a future. A house that stood tall and proud, its walls carrying the weight of generations gone by. But sometimes, a house carries more than just memories. Sometimes, it carries whispers. Whispers of things long forgotten, or deliberately hidden. What if those whispers weren't just in your head? What if they were warnings tonight? We step into a house that promised everything. A sanctuary, a new beginning. But promises can be broken. Behind its walls, something waited. Something that changed lives forever. This is the true story of the house that refuses to be forgotten. Stay with me as we uncover what really happened inside. The House of the Dead. In every neighborhood, there's always one house. A house that people cross the street to avoid. A house where children dare each other to run up and knock on the door. A house that seems to carry a presence. One that lingers long after the people who built it are gone. In this quiet suburban neighborhood, that house is known simply as the House of the Dead. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss it as just another abandoned property. The roof sags, the paint is cracked and peeling, and the windows are either shattered or boarded up. But there's something else. Something you can't quite put your finger on. It's the way the shadows cling to the house, even in daylight. The way the air seems colder as you approach, and the way you feel like you're being watched the moment you step too close. The house wasn't always like this. Decades ago, it was a proud and beautiful home, built in the late 1800s by a wealthy merchant named Elias Harper. Harper spared no expense, adorning the house with ornate woodwork, stained glass windows, and sprawling gardens. It was meant to be a symbol of success, a legacy for his family, but Elias Harper's dream quickly became a nightmare. In 1896, his wife Clara fell ill under mysterious circumstances and passed away within months. The following year, his youngest daughter drowned in the backyard pond. By 1900, Elias himself was found dead in the study, a gun in his hand and a single bullet wound to the head. The official story was suicide, but locals whispered of something far worse. Over the years, the house changed hands many times. Each new family brought hope, only to leave in despair, or worse. By the 1950s, the stories had grown darker. Neighbors reported seeing lights in the windows when no one was home, hearing laughter echoing from the empty halls, and even catching glimpses of shadowy figures watching from the upstairs rooms. Then came the Peterson family. In the summer of 1994, David and Linda Peterson moved into the house with their two young children, Sarah and Michael. They were looking for a fresh start, a new chapter in their lives. They didn't know the house's history, or perhaps they didn't believe the stories. After all, what's a ghost story compared to the promise of a home of your own? At first, everything seemed normal. Neighbors described the family as cheerful and friendly, eager to settle into their new home. But it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. Within weeks, strange things began to happen. Lights flickered on and off at odd hours. Doors that had been locked were found wide open. And then there were the noises. Soft whispers that seemed to come from the walls, and footsteps in the attic when no one was up there. By the end of the summer, the Petersons were no longer seen outside. The once lively family stopped attending neighborhood events, and their children stopped playing in the yard. Neighbors began to worry, but no one dared approach the house. Then, on the night of August 15th, 1994, everything changed. That was the last time anyone saw the Peterson family alive. What happened to them? What drove them to vanish without a trace? And what is it about this house that seems to consume everyone who steps inside? Tonight, we'll uncover the chilling truth behind the House of the Dead. To understand the Peterson family's fate, we first need to understand the house itself. Built in 1887 by the Harper family, the house was meant to be a sanctuary, a testament to wealth and ambition. But from the very beginning, it seemed destined for darkness. Elias Harper, the man who built the house, was known for his wealth, but also for his secrets. Locals whispered that he had an obsession with the occult. Strange symbols were etched into the woodwork, and rumors spread of midnight gatherings in the basement. Harper dismissed these claims as nonsense, but the stories persisted. The Harper family's time in the house was short-lived. Within 10 years, tragedy struck. Clara Harper, Elias's wife, died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. The family's youngest daughter drowned in the backyard pond, though some claimed they heard screams coming from the water late that night. By 1900, Elias himself was dead, his body discovered in the study with a single gunshot wound to the head. The house was sold, but its reputation only grew darker. Over the next century, it changed hands many times. Each family that moved in left under mysterious circumstances, some disappearing entirely, others driven to madness. By the 1950s, the house was abandoned, its windows boarded up, and its name whispered in fear. The House of the Dead. In the summer of 1994, the Peterson family moved in, hoping to turn the house into a home. David and Linda Peterson were a young couple, eager to leave the city and raise their two children, Sarah and Michael, in a quieter, safer environment. They had no idea of the house's dark history or the horrors that awaited them. David was a practical man, a contractor by trade, who saw the house as a project full of potential. Linda, a teacher, was drawn to its charm and history. Their children, Sarah and Michael, were curious and adventurous, thrilled by the idea of exploring the sprawling old home. At first, the Petersons were full of optimism. They spent their days unpacking, repairing, and dreaming of the future. But it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. Within weeks, they began to notice strange things. Small at first, almost easy to dismiss. A door that wouldn't stay closed. Footsteps in the attic when no one was up there. Lights flickering for no reason. Linda started to feel uneasy, as if someone or something was watching her. Sarah and Michael began to wake up in the middle of the night, crying about shadows in their rooms. David brushed it off, insisting the house was just old and creaky. But deep down, even he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The Petersons had no way of knowing that they were not alone in the house. And by the time they realized the truth, it was already too late. It started small. Things so subtle that the Petersons could almost convince themselves it was nothing. But as the days turned into weeks, the house began to reveal its true nature. At night, the house came alive. It began with faint noises, soft whispers that seemed to drift through the walls, footsteps echoing from the attic, and the sound of furniture scraping across the floor. David checked every corner of the house, but he found nothing. He told himself it was just the house settling, just the wind, just his imagination. But the whispers weren't confined to the night. Linda heard them during the day too, soft, almost conversational, as if someone was speaking just out of earshot. When she followed the sound, it always led her to the same place, the locked door to the basement. Then came the bruises. Linda woke up one morning with dark, finger-shaped marks on her arm. She brushed it off as an accident. Perhaps she'd bumped into something while unpacking. But the next day, David found similar marks on his back, and soon the children began waking up with scratches that no one could explain. As the weeks passed, the disturbances grew impossible to ignore. Objects moved on their own. Keys left on the kitchen counter would be found in the attic. Photographs were turned face down, and the family's belongings were arranged in strange, almost ritualistic patterns. Doors slammed shut without warning, trapping family members inside rooms for minutes at a time. The house seemed to be toying with them. But the most unsettling change was in Michael, the youngest child. He began speaking to someone he called the man in the corner. At first, Linda thought it was just an imaginary friend, but Michael described the man in chilling detail. A tall figure with hollow eyes and a twisted grin. He said the man liked to stand in the corner of his room at night, watching him sleep. One night, Linda woke to find Michael sitting at the foot of her bed, staring at the doorway. When she asked him what he was doing, he simply said, "He's waiting for you." Then the family pet, a small dog named Max, disappeared. The children searched the house from top to bottom, calling his name, but Max was nowhere to be found. The next morning, they discovered his collar lying in the middle of the living room, surrounded by a perfect circle of burned carpet. David, desperate for answers, decided to investigate the house more thoroughly. That's when he found the door to the basement unlocked. The air inside was cold and damp, and the walls were lined with strange, almost ritualistic carvings. In the center of the room was a trunk covered in dust. Inside, David found photographs of the Harper family, a collection of yellowed letters, and a leather-bound diary. They're always watching. They're always waiting. The house is theirs now. The diary belonged to Elias Harper, the house's original owner. It described strange occurrences in the house, objects moving, voices in the night, and the sensation of being watched. But the final entries were the most disturbing. Elias wrote of a presence in the house, something he called the Keeper. David realized too late that the Petersons weren't the first family to experience the horrors of the house, and they wouldn't be the last. By the time the final night arrived, the Peterson family was hanging by a thread. The strange occurrences had become relentless, their dreams plagued by terrifying visions, and the sense of dread had seeped into every corner of their lives. In a last-ditch effort to understand what was happening, David set up a camcorder in the living room, hoping to capture proof of horrors they are experiencing. The footage begins at 11:47 p.m. The Petersons are gathered in the living room, their faces pale and drawn. Linda clutches a crucifix, her hands trembling. Sarah and Michael sit close together, whispering to each other, while David adjusts the camera, his movements hurried and shaky. For the first hour, nothing happens. The family sits in silence, occasionally glancing toward the hallway as though expecting something or someone to appear. Then, at exactly 1:03 a.m., the first sound is captured, a faint knock coming from the basement door. David approaches the door, his flashlight trembling in his hand. He opens it slowly, revealing only darkness. But as he turns to return to the living room, the camera captures something he doesn't see. A shadowy figure standing at the bottom of the stairs, just out of reach of the light. By 2:30 a.m., the activity intensifies. The sound of footsteps echoes through the house, though no one is moving. The children begin to cry, insisting they see figures standing in the corners of the room. Linda tries to comfort them, but her own fear is evident. At 3:15 a.m., the camera captures its most chilling moment. The room is plunged into darkness as the lights flicker and die. In the pitch black, a blood-curdling scream erupts, followed by a deafening silence. When the lights return, the living room is empty. The Peterson family is gone. The next morning, neighbors noticed something was wrong. The Petersons' car was still in the driveway, but no one answered the door. The police were called, and when they entered the house, they found it eerily quiet. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of where the family might have gone. It was as if they had simply vanished. In the living room, they found David's camcorder still running. The tape was reviewed, but no one could explain what they saw. Investigators described the footage as disturbing and inexplicable. In the basement, police discovered something even more chilling. David's diary. His final entries painted a picture of a man unraveling, consumed by fear. He wrote of a dark presence that had taken over the house, a force that couldn't be reasoned with or escaped. His last words read, "It won't let us leave. It won't let us go." The Petersons were never seen again. Their disappearance remains one of the most chilling mysteries in modern history. And the house, it still stands, waiting for its next visitors. The disappearance of the Peterson family left an indelible mark on the quiet suburban neighborhood. The house, once a symbol of hope for a fresh start, became a symbol of fear, a place no one dared to enter. In the weeks following the Petersons' disappearance, the house stood eerily silent. Neighbors reported strange occurrences. Lights flickering in the windows despite no electricity, faint cries echoing in the night, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing inside. The house seemed alive. Several brave souls attempted to move into the house in the years that followed, but none stayed longer than a few weeks. One family reported waking up to find all their belongings stacked in the middle of the living room. Another described hearing their names whispered in the dead of night. One tenant even claimed to see a tall, shadowy figure standing at the foot of their bed, its hollow eyes fixed on them. The house's reputation grew, attracting the attention of paranormal investigators. Teams equipped with cameras, EVP recorders, and thermal sensors ventured inside, hoping to uncover the truth. What they found only deepened the mystery. Recordings captured chilling EVPs, disembodied voices pleading for help, warning to get out, and, most disturbingly, laughter that seemed to echo from the basement. Thermal sensors recorded drastic temperature drops, with some rooms plunging to near freezing despite the summer heat. And multiple investigators reported seeing shadowy figures darting just out of sight. Despite countless investigations and endless speculation, the fate of the Peterson family remains a mystery. Did they fall victim to a supernatural force? Or was there something else at play, something darker? More human skeptics argue that the house's reputation has been exaggerated, that the Petersons simply left to escape financial troubles or personal demons. But if that's true, why did they leave everything behind? And what about the recordings, the screams, the whispers, the shadowy figures? If it wasn't supernatural, then what was it? Perhaps the most chilling question of all is this: if the Petersons were taken by something within the house, is it still there, waiting? The House of the Dead stands as a monument to the unknown, a place where fear and reality blur. Would you dare step inside? And if you did, would you ever come out? Imagine being in the Petersons' shoes, strange noises, unexplained shadows, and a growing sense that something is watching you. What would you do? Would you stay and fight for your home? Or would you leave everything behind? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story has you on edge, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to uncover the darkest, most mysterious tales. And trust me, You won't want to miss what's coming next. The Peterson story is one of the most chilling mysteries we've ever explored. But what do you think? Was the house cursed? Were they victims of something supernatural? Or was there a rational explanation hiding in the shadows? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you thought this story was unsettling, wait until you hear about the most haunted asylum in history. That's coming up next, so be sure to hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones we can't explain.